Everyone was happy, but someone was bound to die. Blackjack in the corner, you know the stakes were high. The piano man was pumping at the women's bump and grind.
The Dark Side of the Mountain was a concept that I came up with about 8 years ago. Me and my old songwriting partner Gary Lee was riding to Knoxville to buy a bass guitar, and at the time a lot of the songs we were writing were on the dark side of things. They were on the foul side of things, and we got to talking a lot that day about music. And I remember saying to him that I always wanted to come up with an album that would be like a hillbilly Pink Floyd. I said it would almost be as though it would be a hillbilly Dark Side of the Moon. And Gary says, "So you mean Dark Side of the Mountain?" And we both had a good laugh about that.
Just look at that crazy fool, he's gonna get killed. Worst of all, he thinks he's doing God's will. Drinking strychnine and playing with a rattlesnake. That twist of scripture gonna send him to his grave.
But the Dark Side of the Mountain to me is the truest side of the mountain, especially this day and age. There's a lot of beauty here. Of course there's a bright side, and the bright side is sang about, and sometimes, you know, it's made to look glamorous on television. A lot of times the way that the media portrays the South and portrays the mountain people, it's either a bunch of, you know, Barbie dolls and underwear models all parading around a swimming pool, or it's a bunch of idiotic rednecks just making fools of all of us. But every great story isn't complete without the villain, and I've always felt like that's who I was. I was the one that said the one thing Granny didn't want you to talk about. If Granny didn't want you to talk about it, that's what I was going to say.
She was writing bad checks for Percocets and drinking $3 wine.
There's a lot of beauty here. There's people that have brought their children out here and had great family outings, and there's people that's been found dead at the bottom.
For the people who crossed him, we all know they will never be found.
There's a whole lot of Saturday night on the radio, but there's not very much Sunday morning. There's not very much time for reflection. And if you really go back and listen to a lot of the music that inspired me, from early country stuff like Hank Williams and Jimmy Rogers, the Stanley Brothers, Bill Monroe, Jimmy Martin, I've had people say to me, "Well, you write about a lot of foul things, or you write about a lot of dark things. I don't see how you can get much darker than Pretty Polly." Well, we teach our kids how to sing that song, and I don't know if people even realize that Pretty Polly dies. When we started making this record very early on, I discovered that I was finally putting the sound down on a record that I've always wanted to make, and that's thanks to the Arbor Studio. We had Vince Harris on the drums and John Baker on bass. John also played some guitar. We had Gray Comer manning the mixing board. We brought in Barry Hanna to play some lead guitar. Got some guest appearances by the Barstool Romeos, and Greg Horn played some fiddle and piano. And every session we had, there was a lot of positive energy in the room. We always left feeling really good about it. There was never a point where any of us seemed frustrated. It was just very natural. And we had a really great time making this record, and I hope everyone enjoys it as much as we enjoyed making it.
And a lifetime searching for Mary Helen.